In this jungle guide, I want to explain why the 3 camp clear variants are the best jungle routes for Season 12, and why having these clears in your arsenal is the best thing for the end of the season, as you can counter any sort of clear that might come your way. Yes, this will work no matter what jungle you're playing, and I will have a multitude of examples to show you exactly what decisions you can make, when you can make them, why you can make them, and how you can use them to carry, win, and climb. And this is a final notice and a call to action for the Monday bootcamp that is beginning. Myself, Coach Kybit, and Gosu Academy will be making you a better jungler, a better League of Legends player within 10 days. The site is updated with the topics as well as the start times for the key lectures, as well as a whole bunch of ticketing information about all the extras you can get. There will be full VOD access for every single lecture, everything that happens. So if you can't make everything, don't worry. You'll have everything at your disposal to make this a worthwhile experience, and I will be active in the Discord the whole time as well as Coach Kybit. Please do click the link, investigate, have a look, see if it's something you want to do, but I hope to see as many of you there as possible. Again, we're starting on Monday. It's running for 10 days over the next 2 weeks. And thank you to everybody who has signed up so far. Literally, the most important thing about jungle clears and jungle routes is having a determined game plan and understanding what you want to accomplish, as well as what the enemy wants to accomplish, and how we can mesh those together in terms of denial, acceptance, and all the kinds of strategies that we need to be the better jungler. So just to know what we're talking about before we get into the real examples here, in theory, we have multiple 3 camp clears that we can use for a variety of purposes. The classic one is the one you all know, the red side quadrant clear. Now, if you're starting Raptors or red, it doesn't really matter. The goal is that you enter the Krugs, and then you look for a sideline. All of these will be reversible, so do apply those in your mind, just a little bit of mirror imagery for you. Now, Season 9 veterans will understand this and go, ha, I know this, that's great. But what if the enemy jungler starts on the top side, sees me early, and then counter jungles me, and then maybe cuts through mid lane so I can't counter jungle them because I killed the bottom lane, and now they're going to collapse on me? Ah, yes, these are good questions. That's why this is a great clear to do if the enemy jungler starts on the blue side, on the bottom side, and you know this through early vision, through tracking the leashes, because you can always flex from this red side quadrant clear into a 5 camp, into a full clear. We'll talk about that in a second. But what this allows you to do is basically make this level 3 gank on the bottom side while the enemy jungler is potentially pathing to the top lane, and then you can of course cut through mid lane, gank that lane, try for double scuttle control, and protect your blue side all at once. Another version of this is where you say, listen, I don't want to do that side lane stuff because it does open me to counter jungling. I don't know where the enemy jungler started. However, I do kind of want to gank on that top lane. So you can do your red side quadrant and just cut through, don't do your blue side, gank top lane, fall back to the crab, and now you can either do your blue side, cut through mid lane gank and double scuttle, or if the enemy jungler is a lower elo jungler and during that elo, you might even still have an opportunity for a late invade. Another classic example is obviously doing all of this, but from the blue side. This, like the red side, gives you a little bit of reactive adaptability. For example, I've spoken a lot about doing a blue side clear going down, you know, to do a red into ganking bot lane, but top lane all of a sudden looks like a mighty juicy gank, and the enemy jungler started on the bottom side and will be sequencing up. So you can capitalize by getting a tempo advantage. And then after that, of course, now you have river control, mid lane control, you go to the bottom side, all your camps are available, and they don't really have anything to do. These are your typical classic quadrant clears into flexing different situations. We're going to talk a lot about that in a second, but the quintessential modern Season 3 camp clear is of course the red Raptors Grump. I just illustrated that in the previous video, as well as another one a few weeks ago. I will link those below if you want a lot of explanation on that, but you're seeing the animation now about the flexibility that this clear can provide in terms of your early action, or just simply falling back and recognizing, hey, that shit's happening, I can't do anything about it, I'm going to swap to the other side. And if that seems rather generalistic to you, why don't we break down a bunch of examples that can show you the variability and how you can use these 3 camp clear variants to dominate the rest of the season. Okay, let's have a good old-fashioned look at this one. We have a Rek'Sai here for you against a Poppy jungle, some sort of meta junglers, and I think most people will understand that, hey, Rek'Sai is going to be the one to do the 3 camp into some kind of action, whether it's mid lane, whether it's bot lane, whether it's red Raptors Grump, whether it's red Krugs Raptors, whether it's red Raptors Krugs. There's so many variety there's so much variety rather in terms of your 3 camp clears, but obviously this is the utmost standard. So you'd probably be expecting this to happen. Now, what I want to talk about in this particular video is why we make these decisions and how we can adapt them should randomness occur. As such, in this case, if you're the Rek'Sai and you're planning on ganking the top lane, then you're going to go straight to Krugs here, Grump, into this gank, yes? You're against a Poppy who now didn't get a leash, didn't show, and typically, that means they started on the Raptors, typically. Early wards from a mid laner with Prior will definitely help, but you don't really have that 100% known factor. So you can essentially say, listen, let me default into a 5 camper, kind of shadow to see if the Poppy does do a 3 camp into a gank, and then I can react immediately. That's a great way to do things when your top lane has good Prior here, good shove, can move on down and ward, which won't be the case in your lower elo ranks. You'll have to kind of anticipate and shadow this yourself. And likewise, if Poppy does do, say, solo wolves into blue Grump gank's bottom lane, which is something you can do, again, 12 CS in a gank, then you now can flex into denial of the top side, which is the risk of doing a single quadrant into the side lane when you don't know where the enemy jungler started, whether it's blue bot or red bot here. The enemy jungler can always look to slice you in half and enjoy your camps. However, we're gonna go ahead and do this, and we'll see at 236 already no gank. I think it's pretty obvious at this stage that there is no gank happening. And what the Poppy is going to be doing, you'll see here, is another variant. Yeah, she finishes her Krugs here, and you could look for this top lane gank, but because the Jack said push and went down to ward 99%, you don't even bother going. I mean, you have the scanner, but what's the point when the Rek'Sai gets leashed here and could 100% be going up, and should 100% be going up. So you can look to loop around, scan to make sure that there's any vision. You know, let's see if we can gank the mid lane here, which I think is a standard approach. It's quite normal. We're going to do that. We're going to try and get the kill close enough. We burn the flash. That's fine. Yone loses his flash. Mid lane loses his flash. Fine. Now, she's going to cut through and gank the priority on the bot lane. Sivir, Lulu against a Tahm Kench Senna. That's a range, double range versus melee. That's a Sivir lane. They're always and mostly going to have push prior, which means you can transition this into a really nice, and again, I love this, something people don't do enough of, and I talk all the time, pot control ward. That's all you need for these kinds of things. Now, as she goes for this gank, we're going to watch this play through in real time, okay? Bear in mind, you can simply go Raptors, Red, Krugs, and go straight through your jungle, as she gets a kill here, first blood, and gank the bottom lane. That is something you can 100% do. You don't need to force this in terms of going through mid lane. You can just cut through here like this. So, if you're concerned, or you don't potentially want to, you know, flirt with whatever's going up here, you can get leashed on your Red, Krugs, Raptors, run down, gank this, and have the same outcome. Timing will be a little bit different, but it's the same sort of principle. In the meantime, our Rek'Sai 5 camped into a top lane gank, and will of course take the top scuttle, and then Poppy now is here in a huge mini wave, getting quite low, but the benefit of this kind of 12 CS gank is that what? We can fall back and take our Grump, get HP, we can smite it. If there's really nothing else for us to do, we can go ahead and take that blue, take that wolf camp as well. Now here you'll see the Sivir completely disrespects the Poppy, who goes in straight for the flash, knocked back into the wall. Tahm Kench uses his Abyssal Voyage, repositions, gets more kills. Now the disrespect is coming through from the Poppy side. Ideally, you can just fall back to this stuff if there's nothing else you can do, and of course you can do this. Do understand that you want this, right? But not taking it when there's no stress means you can kind of delay the outside in rule and also delay the first RNG scuttle, which is good against certain champions like Rek'Sai. However, if you're going to do this repeat gank, and again, a huge benefit of these clears is the fallback to your camps as a safety net, always right there, but at the same time, you can always repeat gank should people disrespect you. And now, with the Rek'Sai ganking top lane, taking the top crab 99%, there should be some sort of anticipation that the Rek'Sai is going to be basing, buying a serrated Duak, and rotating down to the bottom lane. And of course, is going to lose double scuttle. She decides to go a little bit greedy for that blue, loses it, and now we're basically into standard early game jungling. You know, second rotation, third rotation, and so on. Okay, so we just had the red quadrant 12 CS flex clear that we can look to use against 5 camping junglers, 4 clearing junglers, and what options we have and how we have to think about it. In the final example, I'm going to show you a 4 clearing jungler versus a red Raptors Grump and sort of the decision-making process that goes into that. We have a lot of successful ones recently in those videos, so I'm going to link those extra videos below as well. But let's have a look at how we can make a read when we want to do a 3 camper or a 4 clearer. In this case, we actually want a 4 clear, but we are against a 3 camp, and how can we adjust our 4 clear, 4 camp, or 5 camp into a 3 camp to counter the fact that we are against such a 12 CS ganking abuser. Now, we are against the Wukong. He gets leash topside. Deep vision will help you, but obviously just tracking straight up leashes is great. Really, more than enough. Wukong is not going to look to full clear anymore. I think most Wukongs will look for this 3 camp action. The Zidbo video talks about this quite a bit. And we know when he gets leashed here, he's going to go red, Raptors, Grump, and go and try and get the Kalista Pyke snowballing. So if you're the Hecarim here, or any jungler, and you are either looking to 3 camp yourself, or 4, 5, 6 camp, doesn't really matter, how can we reconcile this 12 CS action against the enemy jungler's 12 CS action? For us, typically, we'd just be sequencing, right? Look to dive this, counter jungle this, you know, it's boring. But in the end, if the Wukong makes the right proactive plays, it could really doom our bottom lane. So if this looks like, hey, Renekton's got this, if this looks like, well, it's a Cassiopeia, so we'll come back to this whenever, why don't I try and get out ahead of the Wukong or counter gank him by, instead of going red, Krugs, Raptors up, red, Raptors, Krugs, down. So these are the decisions you can make, even as a full clearing jungler, to basically try and counteract the enemy jungler doing what, we're talking about in this video, which is of course 3 camps ganking. And that's why these clears are so damn good, because the first example was straightforward, using it for some straight up ganking, but now we're using it as a counter to an aggressive lane who's gonna try all in with the Kalista Pike, try and kill our bot lane. The Wukong in the meantime is on his Grump, hasn't even finished his 12 CS, and now he's basically going, well, what do I do? And the Hecarim decides, all right, look, let me go into the river and fight this. This is not the good decision necessarily, especially when you're low on mana, especially when you have no river prio from the mid lane. But remember, this is literally the rank 1 Hecarim. He's got a challenger with Hecarim, playing Hecarim almost exclusively, since season 8. So the guy can play Hecarim in whatever meta, and of course we're Hecarim and we can just run away. So that's obviously nice. We do get out, we can look for top scuttle, but this is essentially what you're looking to do. Not this execution, but ideally, in most of your games, you won't have such negative game states. So you can flex into this 3 camp gank before the monkey. Now he's screwed. You can move on up on the river if it's a full clearing jungler. So let's adapt our thinking a little bit. If we're against a Kayn who's coming down here, at 310 or so, he's going to be joining these two together. And in a lower elo game, he won't be. So why don't we just flex into a bit of an invade? But of course, pay attention to prio, see if it's possible. Worst case scenario, you skip this bottom scuttle, you give it to him, say, my gift to you because I took away your early gank mid lane, because of course she was pushing, and now you get top scuttle, you can look top lane, you can of course look back to your blue side, you can reset, you can obviously go back to Krug's Raptors and steal the tier 2 Raptors if the enemy jungler spends too much time down here, which will happen in low elo. So those are the options you have available to you with these clears. But this is just such a great flex, recognizing, hey look, I want a full clear. But the enemy jungler is going to look to Red Raptors Grump and gank, and I don't like that, so why don't I try and get ahead of it? Now the Wukong still, right, is basically been hanging around the whole time and moves in here. He still goes for this. Now at this point, if a jungler overcommits to this sort of clear with no fallback, you as, what the? Okay, well done. You as a Hecarim are going, well, all right then. You literally waited that whole time. You compromised the Wukong's game plan. We're gonna do this. However, look at this beautifulness. This beauty. The Raptors are coming out. He did Red Raptors Krugs because not only did he want to get to the bottom lane first, he also wanted to set himself up as a good meta jungler with a nice, juicy second sequence. So he can spend all that time properly looking for action, then fall back to his blue Grump Wolves, his Raptors are spawning, and now he can go down and take his Krugs as well, should he need or should he want. The only reason he's not doing it is because his bottom lane is constrained to this area and the zone. Cassio's alive, Pyke's in the area, and he just doesn't want to coin flip it, but at the same time he also has Tear of the Goddess, plus his Ionian Boots of jungling, and now we can go straight to the Krugs into the bot lane, or straight into the bot lane first, should it be advantageous for us. Okay, in this one we have a Hecarim versus a Kha'Zix, and obviously we're starting on the blue in this situation. This is warded, and this is warded. So we do have that early information, both junglers getting access to it. Now what's going to happen here is we're going to go ahead and do our blue side quadrant here. The Kha'Zix shows up here. 9 CS because he killed a ward, that's very important. But he goes to the Grump. So this is Red Raptors Grump plus 1 ward. We also have the Taliyah leaving mid lane, moving on down, and probably giving some protection over here, which is exactly what she did. So now we're on the other side of the coin, right? We know the Hecarim is going to sequence from blue down, most likely to a full clear, and we do have a pushing bottom lane. Again, a Sivir, but this time with a Yuumi, again against a melee, but this time with a Nyla and an Alistar against us. This is without a doubt a level 2 minimum ganking lane, and ideally level 3 obviously. But this is such a big fat wave, right? Even though they hit level 2, do we want to go for this right now? Because if the Hecarim decides to cut his clear short, we're screwed. And that's the benefit here of the Hecarim not flexing into a sort of 3 camp variant, because obviously his Hecarim is good at full clearing, but he also does it so much quicker than Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix almost has to go, well, I have to fall back to my blue and my wolves, which is exactly what you can do with the Red Raptors Grump clear. However, he makes a big mistake here. You'll see the bot lane decides to go in. We finish this off. What is one of the options that we have with this clear is just to basically say, look, I have no prio. I have no prio. Enemy jungle sequencing down. You know what? It's doomed. Go to the top side. You can take this. You can look for this dive potential. Look at this. Mega chunked. Giga zoned. We have flash. I mean, this is high elo. You can definitely do this. Worst case scenario, you still have your Krugs into your second spawn Raptors because we did them so early. And if the Hecarim spends 18 years down here, which they will in low elo, then of course, this 4-minute, 18 or so Grump is gonna be spawning. You can leave a ward if you don't have a scanner and snack that up. But obviously, if you plan on doing Red Raptors Gromp ganking, having a scanner is a better outcome. Now, he decides to basically call the bluff a little bit and say, look, I have Smite here. I'm going to quickly Smite and snack this. Hecarim will just be finishing and coming into the river. He's going to the bottom lane. Can I affect this fight? And you know, this is where you have to do the calculations in your mind, your knowledge of 3v3s, of 2v2s, of 1v1s. You know, can you do what's necessary? I'm a little bit unlucky here to get those kills, but honestly, Yuumi, Sivir, Hecarim, why are we even bothering? You know, this is not a gank I want to go for. I'd much rather be on this top side and doing something about the Jays. Equal and opposite. And you see the pings, you know, from the Kha'Zix here. I don't know why he's pinging that. It's pretty damn obvious. And of course, the Hecarim is then going to use this to go ahead and get some river control. So even though we can do the 12 CS into a good advantage, it's important for you to make the right read, or a full clearing jungler who's pathing to that side can obliterate you. And that's why I just wanted to throw this example in a little bit at the end, because now he's severely compromised, and there was no reason for him to be compromised, and you would have seen that from the early Hecarim example of how it can work when you make the right read on it. But you're seeing clips now of a Vi from a coaching session. What I think the Vi should have been able to do actually was look at the mid lane, see those fights. If that fight wasn't something that happened, maybe they were just really, really low and they'll keep posturing. You don't have to go from your blue side into that red quadrant, do you? You can cut down after doing the blue side, gank the mid lane, shove it, and then fall back to your red side and protect it. But hopefully this makes a lot of sense for you. All three of the clears make a lot of sense and you can kind of use them to your advantage. Remember, if you can't do Raptors, you can of course do Red Wolves Grump for the same sort of idea. That's typically a Warwick thing, but usually you would finish the blue afterwards. Usually as Vi, you would finish the blue afterwards because it's not the same as the Raptors in terms of how you would sequence around the map and how you can reverse clear it down, which, spoiler, will be another video I talk about in another Jungle Roots video coming up very soon. I kind of like these breakdowns. Let me know if you do as well. If you're looking for more content that you might love and enjoy, click the video in the box in the top right. If you're looking for even more, click the video in the box in the bottom left. And if you want eternal knowledge, sub.